I'm excited to have Andrew Myers, an old friend of mine, here today. He does some of the most unique artwork that I've ever seen, and his story is an interesting story. So I think, we're obviously going to go on some tangents. We're going to, talk shit and do whatever, wherever this
what
goes.
we do best.
What we do. But I think it's like, I think it's really interesting because, when I first met you, you were doing figurative work. In fact, I first met you, I think through your brother-in-law, and he recruited me as my one and only time as a model for a sculpture.
Yeah,
because you were doing figurative work, and you need somebody that I guess I fit the
I needed someone with a killer body, Casey.
back in the good old days.
And my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, do you know Casey? I mean, this guy does deep sea diving and all this stuff, and he's super fit." So I call Casey up, and I'm like, "Hey, bud, you want to come over and take your clothes off?"
That was an unusual cold call.
I'm sure it was, but
so, of course I said yes.
Yes, of course.
I'm like, wait a minute. So so double checked with Ed to make sure this wasn't a prank. And then,
quick question on that.
Yeah.
How was the experience of modeling and standing still? Because I did it once, and I swore I'd never do it again. It's
a little rough. I mean, again, I did have some parameters, like just top up.
Right.
So, I got to ease into that modeling world. And like I said, it was my one and only time doing that. But I mean, it's hard to stand still. But it was neat. Again, the process is interesting because I'm doing wildlife stuff, right? And I'm doing, it's all fabricated. It's hammered and carved and whatever, but like the figurative stuff, I've got a lot of respect for that because, people might have an idea what a fish or a hermit crab or an octopus or whatever looks like or whatever, but everybody sees a person all day, every day. And so if the expression's wrong, if anything is wrong, like that is a hard thing to do. Like I've had people approach me and they're like, "Oh yeah, you do fish. Like I'd really like to have like a mermaid sculpture, but I want the mermaid to look like my wife back, like when we first met in our 20s, and here's a picture and like whatever." And I'm like, that's just not what I do. Like I would for sure fuck that up. You'd probably nail it out of the park.
I struggle with sculpture, man. I still, after doing it, 25 years, I still struggle a lot more with sculpture than I do with painting.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've always said, painting is a lie and sculpture is the truth. And the reason I say that is every painting is an illusion. You're creating an illusion of depth.
Oh, with the dimension.
Yeah. Sculpture exists in space, and it might look good from the front, and you just turn a little bit and something's off.
Yeah.
And, like if you stand in one place and sculpt the front of a face, for example, for too long, and then you go to the side, you're like, "Oh shit." Well, that's off.
You kind of want it to all come together sort of at the same speed, so you don't have to like redo that face that's perfect. Absolutely. Because it's all yeah.
If it's too flat from the side, it's not successful, right?
So, no, that's not good.
You got to move around sculpture, but figurative sculpture, I think, is one of the hardest art forms.
I would think so. I would think so.
One mistake and it just looks awful.
Well, and so that, I mean, originally, like, again, this was 20 plus years ago, maybe.
Right.
And I was still lifeguarding at the time. I was doing some art on the side, but I hadn't even been in the Festival of the Arts at that point, I think. And so, but yeah, the figure, so you were doing that and you're doing it in clay and then having it cast in bronze. Right. And then, but your stuff, I always liked because it was not just your stuff, all of it. There's a lot of layers to it, and I think that the layers, it's not just a figurative piece. It's like a figurative piece that tells more of a deeper story.
Right.
And I think that whether it's that or we can get into the a lot of the stuff we're doing with the screw art and all that kind of stuff, but all of that, like. It's beautiful, it's engaging, it's good quality art, but it also like has a deeper story to it. And I think that those layers are really one of the things that like really set you apart from a lot of other people that you see in the art world. I mean, there's, that's, I'm sure you've, that's part of it.
So my thought on that is right now, the art world, if you look at it, creativity is very close to being dead. And when I say creativity, I mean there's a lot of A lot of people that are really good at craft,
Yeah.
right? Amazing painters out there, amazing sculptors. But when it comes time to actually have a voice and say something, that's where people are really starting to struggle.
And like push
right?
those boundaries and
Right.
be
Because
challenge themselves.
art, you can get someone who's a genius at ideas and they might not have the craft, right,
Yeah.
to express them, and that's frustrating and complicated. And then you might get someone who has amazing craft with nothing to say.
Yeah.
To get someone who's good at both, that's a real artist, and that takes a lifetime of basically. I don't want to call it a struggle, but it is a struggle because you're
Yeah.
constantly questioning, you're going deep, you're looking in a mirror every day, and you're trying to figure out basically who you are. I see art as a translation of someone's thoughts into a visual for someone else to understand who that person is, right? So it's not enough for me just to do a piece that's cool, even though in my latter part of my career, I've kind of taken it a little easier on the subject matter, if that makes sense. Um, not going as deep. And then there's, like art you said earlier is a roller coaster. So is life, right?
Yeah.
We go through these moments in time. 6 months, you might not be that happy and you might be depressed and you might be going through something. And the next 6 months, all of a sudden you wake up one day and you just feel fantastic.
Yeah.
And you don't
Yeah.
really want to poke the bear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a constant search for really translating who you are
Yeah.
as a person. And I realized this early on. I know you were going to say something,
No,
but
yeah.
I was going through a Bernini book. He was a sculptor back in Italy back in the day, I think 1600s. Amazing. He's got sculptures everywhere, right? And looking at his book and what he did in marble, I realized in my early 20s, I'm like, I'm never going to be that good. I don't have the time, the money. I'm just never going to be that good. And I kept thinking, how am I going to make a career in art? And it hit me. I just realized I need to be unique. I need to be me. And that's where I started realizing I have to put a story into what I'm doing to give it some content to really express who I am. So that's where that all started, that narrative work and having something to say rather than just doing a portrait of someone and saying, here it is.
Yeah.
So it's been a lifelong pursuit of mine to actually have subject matter that's relevant to me.
Yeah.
And yep.
Well, I think I love that you brought that in because it does take all those things, and I guess maybe the other aspect of it, the third hat that you got to really wear is you also have to keep that whole thing afloat financially. Because I know I've known some guys that are brilliant that are able to do those the two things you mentioned, but
Right.
that third hat of being able to like actually make have it be a business that stays afloat is it just falls down, and then everything else kind of falls down with it. And you've been able to navigate all three of those very well, and be able to expand the business and grow and do all the things that you're doing. What are in terms of the business, and again, we're going to get into some stuff, and I want to talk about some of these other things, but just in terms of the business end of it, there's a lot of just kind of rolling the dice and gambling and all that kind of stuff that happens in the art world because you have an idea that you like or whatever, but a lot of people have they find something that kind of works, and then they sort of stay in their lane to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
But you've done some. The figurative stuff was working, and it was like you were doing mostly just the bronze work, and you were doing great. And then you got passionate about doing, about making some changes and doing some other stuff, and you made some big changes and really kind of pushed that in a way that the discomfort of that, I think a lot of people would not. A lot of other artists that I've seen over the years, like might not be okay with that level of discomfort.
Right. So the whole career of being an artist is discomfort, and you know this, right?
Yeah.
You're giving me some props for the business aspect of it. So I might make it look easy from the outside. There's struggles, man. There are major struggles right now. So I employ 4 people, you know, because I have a gallery downtown as well. So my monthly nut is insane.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder how on earth am I making this happen, right? Um, the trick, I think you got to make a choice. And when you're a young artist, when you're starting out, you either need to follow the money or you need to follow the art, right? Most people follow the money. There's a lot of plagiarism out there, a lot of copycats, a lot of people who are good at their craft, go to the art fairs, they do their homework on what's selling, you know, usually glossy shit sells.
Shiny stuff.
Shiny stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, they do what they have to do to get in the right galleries, and they follow the format that the galleries have set up, and they play that game. I've always been too proud to play that game, you know, and, you know, the reason I switched from sculpture to inventing this screw art thing was the pursuit of, it's a never ending feeling that I have inside of wanting to surprise myself.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be proud of myself. I want to surprise myself. I want to feel, you know, without going too deep, based on how I grew up, I have realized that I've got these insecurities and these things that I'm trying to fill these voids. And it's an immense drive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, but you need the money to make the art happen. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that.
No, it's all good. But it is an interesting thing. I do think, I mean, again, you and I are like about the same. We're like 3 days apart age-wise.
Right.
Different.
Who's older?
I think I might be like 2 days older.
What's your birthday again?
August 2nd.
Damn it, I'm 4 days older.
All right. Yeah. I'm your senior.
You're my
I'm
senior.
your senior.
Absolutely.
But
huge
like,
respect.
Huge. I would demand that, of course, as with those 4 days. But I think that like my path to doing this is something that I'm able to do, you know, keep kind of pushing the boundaries of, and to do it is, you know, something that, again, as much as it's a roller coaster ride, it's still something I'm able to support myself doing. I don't have to, you know, I started off and I was doing it, you know, at night and on my days off from, you know, being a full-time lifeguard.
Right.
And so that, you know, like if it kind of gave me, there's pluses and minuses to every approach, right? But for me, that kind of gave me the ability to make stuff I wanted to see, and to kind of take risks and challenges and whatever that I may not have been financially able to do had I been, you know, supporting my family or whatever off of that. Right. So I had this long runway, you know, where I did both jobs for like 10 years to kind of like build it and kind of have all those explorations and kind of to do what again, as you say, I mean, art is a window into somebody's mind and what they are interested in, how they see the world, whatever that is. Right. Absolutely. And so, you know, to be able to pursue getting that story out there, to kind of tell that story of what I think is, you know, what I think is interesting. I had a runway to do that because I had a day job. Right. You just went all in.
I had to. And that's the thing.
You weren't lifeguarding or
I didn't have another job. And
yeah.
You know, I guess if you set yourself up where the only way to make it is making it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no other option.
No plan B, no
plan B, nothing. Full in, that's what I did. There were really bad moments that first decade. Like really bad. I mean, I remember I had a roommate before I got married, and we used to take the cushions off the couch just to find $3 to buy a bottle of vermouth to get semi-drunk. You know, like literally dry vermouth with ice.
Numb a little bit,
to numb the shit we were going through, which is like, as a young artist, you're putting your heart and soul out there. Yeah. Trying to figure out what's new, what's fresh, who you are, like, and you do these pieces of art and then you're not selling them, right?
It's very emotionally exposed.
Taking all the money you have to buy art materials to create something else. It's something, you know, I wanted to ask you, do you ever regret doing art full time and leaving the lifeguarding and the safety of that?
That's a great question. It's I don't really I don't have no. The short answer is no.
Okay.
There may come a day, like in my 60, like later on when I would have, maybe had the full pension and all that stuff and be able to take it easier where I might be, yes. But, no, because I kind of did, I guess one of my motivators is I like to feel engaged and I like to be challenged and I like to have mountains to climb or dragons to slay, whatever you want to call it. Like I like the challenge of it. And lifeguarding was great. Like I loved it. I did it for 23 years.
Right.
But at that point, I kind of felt like I'd kind of built out the programs that I wanted to build out. I did what I kind of wanted to do. And there was a certain amount of monotony in that, which I don't do well with monotony and the art stuff at that point. Like I said, I'd had a long runway and that was part of, like trying to figure out what, like to find like model or people to talk to.
Right.
They go, hey, like you're doing this for a living or what, or like to have, like, there's not a lot of people out there to even talk to.
No.
And also like a lot of the people, like their situations are different. Like there's people that go, oh yeah, I do art for a living. And they're like, oh, cool. Like I'm thinking about doing that. Like what are some of how does this work? Like, what are some of the numbers or whatever? And you come to find out, like maybe they got a trust fund that actually pays the bills or a spouse or whatever it is. Right.
And that's the truth. So many people in art have
so
other means to make their art.
And I know you didn't have that.
Nothing.
so I know you didn't have a big fat trust fund that was funding this whole venture. But I mean, I guess that's part of why I wanted to like have these conversations, because there's so many people out there that are like that. Again, like maybe the monotony of a day job or whatever it is, right? There's I think you kind of go. I think in life you're kind of wired. Everybody's wired differently, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I think that there's a spectrum, and there's like over on one end you have like, I mean, again, I've kind of equated it to like you're like, even though you're either a hunter gatherer or you're a farmer, right?
Right.
One of them, the hunter gatherer, you could go out and you could come back with a mammoth or nothing or whatever or you could say, you have all the freedom in the world, but none of the security, right? There's no grain stores that you're gonna feed everybody on, right? If you're farming, like you've got, what you're gonna be doing, you're on the farm. You're gonna be at least having something to eat. It's just a different mindset.
Right.
And so I think everybody's somewhere on that, even though most people aren't farming or hunter gathering nowadays, it's so deep in our DNA that I think everybody's somewhere kind of on that spectrum. I'm more on the hunter gatherer kind of spectrum.
So am I.
I think you're probably even more so than me. I mean, since you really, so the lifeguarding was great. I liked the mission of it because I like feeling like I'm doing something that has like a purpose, right? That has a mission. And so the mission of lifeguarding, I think it's amazing, like what it does. But for me, the art was kind of grown to the point where it kind of required me to step into it full time. And on top of that, like Brooks was born right around that time. And I was doing both jobs, which is 40 hours here, 40 hours a week here, 40 hours a week there. Right. It's 80-hour work weeks for, fucking, I don't know, probably almost 10 years I did that. Time, right. Yeah. Which is, that's some people's, that's their whole lives is like that. But, and it was manageable to a certain extent until Brooks came along.
Right.
And then, I barely saw him his first year, and so he was asleep when I'd leave and he was asleep when I'd come home. And that's not how I wanted to be a dad too. So
good for you for figuring that out.
Yeah, well, that's not how I wanted to do it, And so, I mean, again, like there might be a time down the line when my buddies that I lifeguarded with are retired and have, the good solid pensions and all that kind of stuff. And they're, and I'm still hammering out metal, and grinding stuff and doing whatever. But man, I have no regrets because that time that I've been able to spend to be present
Mhm.
and to incorporate Brooks and now Koa
Right.
into this, because you kind of, I mean, you've created an ecosystem around the art that you do, and
Right.
I've done the same thing. And like I've Brooks, like I go, hey, what do you want to do for spring break or whatever? Because I just want to go work in the shop and make stuff with you and whatever. Like he wants to go on all the installs, and like that's not going to last forever probably, but like while it lasts, I think there's a lot of value in that
Mhm.
that like an accountant wouldn't necessarily put into their spreadsheet. You
Right.
know what I mean? And
Right.
that's where like I think that those intangibles for me
Right.
outweigh some of the securities that I would have had with that. I do miss some of the banter though. I loved all the shit talking and lifeguarding and
Oh,
and
I'm
the
sure.
team and all that stuff.
So art is a very, very lonely journey. I mean, no question about it. Yeah, you can have conversations with other artists, which I usually stay away from.
Yeah.
I don't like other artists. I think they're always complaining. There's all this.
There's a lot of
like,
sour bitterness in
so
there. Yeah,
much.
it's
Well,
so-
I mean, you're doing something that is extremely difficult.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So of course people are going to complain, and
yeah,
I would rather hang out with architects.
yeah.
People who've got it together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then like yeah. So it's interesting. Quality of life, right? Does that mean money in the bank? Does that mean security? Years ago, I remember, I forget if it was my mom or someone mentioned, something about not having job security. And I said, look, I've got the most secure job in the fucking world. What are you talking about? I'm not getting fired. I'm never losing my job.
No, you're never going to get
I've
laid
got
off.
job
Yeah.
security
Mhm.
more than anyone in this
Yeah.
world. I just didn't have money at the time, right?
Yeah.
But I think purpose keeps people alive.
Yeah.
When people work their whole lives, retire at 60 and say, when I retire, I'm going to travel and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. By the time they retire, they don't even know how to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what keeps me alive, what keeps me relevant, what keeps me going is purpose.
Yeah.
And my purpose is I'm never going to retire. I know this because I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be trying to come up with something new.
Yeah.
I want to look back when I'm 60, 70, 80 and look at my career and say, holy shit, I did a lot of artwork and a lot of good artwork, some bad artwork. That's
Nobody's batting
experimentation,
1,000.
right?
Nobody's batting 1,000. Yeah.
But yeah, the quality of life is if you enjoy what you do, you don't need that much money.
Yeah.
You need money to pay your bills, right? You want to dress nice, you want to drive a nice car, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't need millions and millions of dollars in the bank for happiness. You just need enough money to continue doing what you're doing. On that note, and you know this well, no one wants to be 45 years old wondering where their next paycheck comes from,
Yeah. That can
and
be
that's,
rough.
That's what we signed up for.
Yeah.
But every year it gets easier.
Yeah.
Every year things come out of nowhere. Well, not nowhere. It's from your last 25 years of work.
Yeah.
I've had some collectors now that saw my work when they were 20 years old.
Yeah.
And now they're in their 40s and they're making a decent living and they're coming back to buy something they saw 20 years ago. So it gets easier. I think it gets easier. And as, I think you're kind of like me. As it gets easier, we just create more problems.
Right? I've designed myself into some real corners.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
you keep yourself at that point where you could fail at any moment.
Yeah.
If you told me 15 years ago that I would be, and this, there's a difference between making money and the sales that you make, right? What actually sticks around.
What you keep is kind of, yeah.
But if you
yeah.
told me I'd be making the sales I'm making now on a monthly basis, I'd be like, shit, I'm going to be pretty rich. No, I'm not rich. I just support a lot of people. And, I made a few wise decisions. I bought a farm out in Escondido that was, again, something purely stupid at the moment, but I believed in it and I made it happen somehow. I have no idea how. And, that was a good investment. But the process, quality of life, enjoying what you do I travel at least 4 times a year, try to go to 2 or 3 different countries every year. Even when I don't have time, even when I don't have money, I learned an important lesson. If you don't do it now, I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
There's
You
no
don't.
later.
There is no later. And,
Yeah.
I'm a very impulsive human being of, if I think of it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a great trait because I've learned to follow through on things that, I think if you ask my employees or my friends or people that really know me, I'm someone who says something and then months down the road, it actually happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, your family grew up, you guys were living abroad and traveling around quite a bit in your childhood too, right?
Not traveling, but we
Or
grew up
living in different
in
places.
Spain.
Yeah.
So I was born in Germany. My parents were missionaries involved with some drug rehab stuff, some church stuff. A life I don't want to talk about, to be honest. It's taken me my whole life to recover from those experiences.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Okay. Next podcast.
Yeah. I grew up, all my schooling was in Spanish as a Spanish kid in Spain, but with American parents. So we spoke English at home.
Yeah.
And everything else was Spanish. When I moved to the U.S., the culture shock. So imagine me dressed like a Spaniard in like some tight jeans. We moved to Seattle during the grunge era.
Oh yeah,
right. So I show up to school
Fit
in a
in
button-up
perfect,
shirt,
seamless transition.
a nice little,
yeah,
sweater over my shoulders.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
instantly I'm like, oh shit.
Yes, not good.
FUBU is not, it's not working out for me. But the culture shock was amazing. I think part of why I'm so comfortable in the chaos and not knowing is that I've never really had a home, really. I've never fit in anywhere. In Spain, I was the American. Here, I'm the European.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of like nothing. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving to the U.S. The culture shock was insane. I always felt different. I never felt like I fit in with anyone, anything. And so when it came time to pursue art, it was just like natural for me to go in 100% and say, it's a battle with myself. That's it.
Yeah. Had you always done art like your whole?
No. So that's what's interesting. I had an older brother. I have.
Yeah.
Who I'll talk about him in a minute, but he was the artist growing up.
Okay.
He was the musician. He played the guitar and he did all the art in high school. So I stayed away from it. I had enough competition with my brother in sports. I didn't need to compete
that
with
too.
that.
Yeah.
And after high school, I had taken one ceramics class, and I drove by this art school in the canyon.
Did you go to high school here in Laguna?
No, I went to high school in Woodinville, Washington.
Okay.
So 20 miles outside of Seattle.
Okay.
But I moved here directly after high school. I took a tour at the art school, and I fell in love.
Yeah.
Like I saw these students doing these massive sculptures, and I just fell in love instantly. And I'm like, that is what I want to do. And I wouldn't have done it except the person giving me the tour convinced me that you could actually make a living in art, something that I had no clue was possible.
Yeah.
But he convinced me. I hate him to this day. He told me it was possible, and I believed him. Stupidly, I believed him.
Yeah.
And, once I dropped out of art school. I'd had enough.
Yeah.
But once I quit art school, I knew nothing else. I was too far in.
Yeah.
Like I had put thousands of hours into these courses.
But you hadn't done like art or
nothing. I did have a natural talent for it. When I went to the school, I said, okay, I want to apply. And they said, well, show us your portfolio. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. And they're like, well, your drawings and all your sculptures that. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm going to art school to do drawings and sculptures. I don't have any drawings or sculptures. I want to learn. And they're like, oh, no, you're going to have to take a 2-year development course before you can actually get into the school. And I looked at them and I said, look, that's not my character. I said, if I get accepted now, I'll work my ass off. And trust me, I'll be good.
Wow.
And they said, okay, well, you need to go home. They said, we like that attitude. you need to go home and in a week come back with these 6 drawings. And they told me what to draw. So I went to the art supply store, grabbed some pencils, some charcoal, came back a week later, and I was nervous, man. I was like shaking. And they're all looking at my drawings, and they're sitting at that oval desk with the president there, and they're studying my drawings, and they look up, and the president says, you swear you've never done art before? And I'm like, well, I took a ceramics class. He said, okay, well, not only did you start on Monday, but we're giving you half scholarship.
Wow.
Like, okay.
Wow.
So, and then what was cool about that journey is I show up on Monday, scared little kid.
Yeah.
And I meet all these new students who were like these big artists in high school, right? So they were confident, they knew what they were doing. And what I was a blank canvas for these teachers to I absorbed everything so quick. That first semester, like I really learned how to draw the figure. I'm not gonna lie, I had a talent for it.
Yeah.
I had a talent for
Clearly
it.
an aptitude.
But with some direction, it's amazing how quickly I got really good and surpassed everyone else that had these preconceived ideas of what.
Well, and you also maybe didn't have some of the bad habits or something that people can pick up, just kind of figuring it out one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So yeah, that was my journey through school. And then, I don't think people understand how much work art school is. Okay. Like I had 2 courses a day, 4-hour courses, right? So that's 8 hours of school a day. And then about 3 or 4 hours of homework every day. So it was like 12-hour days for 3 years.
Wow.
But, the repetition and best thing I ever did was learn a craft.
Yeah.
I've got a son, his name's Crosby, and I'm telling him, no matter what you do in life, learn a craft. I said, I don't care if it's plumbing, electrical, like learn a craft, get good at something.
Get a skill.
Get a skill. Because you can always use that. Like it always comes in handy. So I don't regret that. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been, because I believe I would have been good at a lot of different things in life. Art is a tough one, man. And I want to ask you this. You've got your son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want him to pursue art?
That's a tough one. Well, I'll say from my end, little different path getting here, right?
Right.
And again, whatever here is, right? We're doing this and
successful full-time artist.
We're doing it for a living, right? So it's whatever. So whatever that being here, I never went to any art schools, never did. I just kind of, I had grown up doing stuff since I was a little kid. And then
you had a passion for it.
I had something I was very interested in. I've always been, I was started, drawing little dragons and monsters and dinosaurs, and then that sort of, and animals and whatever. But kind of just baby steps on a lot of these things, just on my own. And then, had some uncles that were artistic that I picked up things from them. And then there was a guy, David Brunetta.
Of course.
Yeah. David's one of those guys that was like, I see him as kind of like a Da Vinci kind of guy. Like he could do everything. His work was great. Like he did all, but he was constantly struggling with that third hat, the business end of it. Right. And as the struggles became more, I saw his work kind of get smaller and smaller and smaller. And, which was, but anyhow, long story short, that's a side note, but brilliant guy. He was really, did all the knife making and all that kind of stuff. But I would go, and on my days off from lifeguarding, I'd go and I met him, and I just go to a shop, and I just, basically just do grunt work, like grind and sand and help him get some of these projects done and just do stuff.
So would you say he's your mentor pretty much?
I would say for the metalworking stuff. Okay. Yeah. So he introduced me to the metalworking aspect. I grew up doing like all the wood carving and all that. My dad was a carpenter, and one of my uncles does carvings, and other ones good at like painting and stuff. So I grew up around it. But the metal stuff, I think it's just, and again, I got into a bunch of different materials, partly because I like to be challenged. I don't like to be limited by whatever, right? But
Right.
so anyhow, he, guys like David Burnetta or being around like Dion Wright and some of these other guys that were doing stuff that's similar, like in the vein of stuff that I was interested in, I was able to learn from,
Right.
but not in a direct schooling kind of way, more of like a just asking people questions, apprenticeship kind of way.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the whole time, getting back to your question, most of the people you run into are like tripping over each other to try and be the first one to tell you to not do art because there's no money in it. There's nothing. It's nothing you should, it's like, don't, everybody, and I think that, the problem solving you get from it, the creative thought, the thought process, the figuring out solutions to things where there's no necessarily not a playbook. There's a lot of value in that, even if you don't do art for a living.
Right.
I think that it's a beneficial thing to know how to do and to be able to translate your thought into something that people can see, right?
Right.
Getting back to whether or not I want Brooks to do that or Koa to do that or whatever. Brooks is really into it. Like, he likes all the shop stuff. I guess I'd just kind of like try and help him accomplish whatever goals he has with it.
Right.
It's a tough thing. And I don't think my whole thing's been kind of like Forrest Gump. Like, I just kind of just did things and sort of just go on this meandering path. Like, it just kind of ended up here. I don't know that there's like a playbook of like, hey, I'm going to do this and do it. I think it's something that it just kind of grows into something organically. So it sort of happens or it doesn't, maybe. And then there's a lot of things you could do to help it happen.
Right.
But I don't know. I think most parents probably for their kids would love for them to be on the stability side of the spectrum, because most parents just want their kids to be taken care of.
Right.
Right. And so they want them to have that stable job. I mean, there's no more stable job than like working for the city. Right. That's the epitome of stable job. And there's probably not a whole lot of more unstable jobs than doing, selling art for a living or whatever. Right. But I don't know. It's a tough one. You've asked me this in the past, and it's a really good question. And I still don't have like a defined answer. I think the best thing I could really do for him is just give him the best tools to be able to at least be like mentally prepared to be successful in whatever it is that he decides to pursue. And then just kind of try and help support that, because, I think for some people to be, if you're, if you like that instability, that hunter-gatherer kind of mindset, and you're stuck in a very stable box,
right,
that's not the right life for somebody. I don't know. I think everybody's got a different path, and I think it's a tough one. What about you?
No.
No way.
No way. And the reason I say that,
full disclosure, you've been doing this longer than I have. So like, I think you've been doing this as a profession 10 years longer than me. Okay. So I've been at it for, I think maybe 18 years now, where I've been actually selling art and doing it full time for, like 6 or 7, I don't know, something like that.
I'm at 25 years.
Yeah. So that's a quite a bit farther down the road. So maybe we'll talk.
Well, and it gets easier. Like, it didn't get any harder over the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Let's talk about creativity for a second. So people want to know why I'm so creative. It's because I've got so many fucking problems. And that's the truth. Creativity
all those creativity demons.
It's problem solving.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I've realized when I make a mistake on something and I have to fix it, and there's no rule book or playbook on how to fix it, and I've got to come up with a way to fix it, that is creativity at its purest form.
Yeah.
Because whatever solution I come up with, that is me being unique, that is me making decisions, and that is me fixing something that eventually, like the screw piece, I wouldn't say it came from a mistake, but I will say there were a lot of mistakes made that turned it into what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So problem solving is creativity, but the problem is, if you want to be super creative, you're going to have a lot of problems, and if you don't have them, you're going to create them.
So you're problem solving in your day in day, like in your off time as well as your on.
Life's
time.
A problem, Casey. Life's a problem.
All right, so
I'm just trying to fix it.
A lot of practice with creative problem solving. Yeah.
No, what I don't want for Crosby is as artists, I feel like we're running a race, okay, with no starting line, with no finish line, and with no course.
Yeah.
They just say run.
Yeah.
And you're competing against people that you're just competing against invisible things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The art world's a mess.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong in the art world. Some of these shows that these artists are famous for, and like some of the bullshit just makes me want to gag.
Yeah.
You know, I listen to, you know, that master class where they have all these people now giving classes online.
I dabbled in that for a minute.
Okay,
Just
so
listened
did
to
you
a few.
ever watch the one on Jeff Koons?
No.
Okay,
No.
so Jeff Koons, one of the most successful living artists right now, right? Selling pieces for $30-50 million. That guy has nothing to fucking say.
Yeah.
Nothing. I listened to his hour class and I'm thinking, dude, take away your little bank account that you had before you started doing art. If I put a piece of paper and a piece of charcoal in front of that guy, zero creativity.
Yeah.
Now, can I look at one of his balloon animals and see the craft in it? Even though he doesn't do it, it's done by a bunch of amazing craftsmen. The finished product, yes, I can call that art. And yes, I can say there's some sort of genius behind it. But without the money, that guy doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. So I went on a tangent there because I think I just
No,
wanted
well, you got to get
say
it out.
that.
You got to get it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to get that
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
This happened like last week, and I've been disgusted ever since. So now that I got that out,
You should probably stop listening to those masterclass things.
Yeah,
'Cause, yeah, it sounds like it's
I'm done. Yeah,
toxic.
It's
Yeah.
so toxic for me. Back to Crosby in the art world. You're running this race that it's just, you've got to be kind of insane to stay in it,
Yeah.
right? The only thing that saved me, and I'm sure saves you, is that we're doing things our way,
Mhm.
right? We're not attached to any art dealers, any galleries telling us what has to be done, putting pricing on our work. Like, we have been individuals in this art game,
Yeah.
and we've chosen how we do things, when we do things.
I'm so thankful for that independence.
Absolutely.
God, that is the best thing. I think there's probably never been a better time to be independent than now, right? I
Right.
mean, with all, like, you
No, I
can
agree.
take charge of your own destiny in a sense.
Yep.
'Cause there's
The tools we have are actually fantastic
Yeah.
compared to when I first started. I mean, you can knock on Instagram all you want, but
It's a fantastic tool, all of
you
it.
create a piece of art and all of a sudden 60,000 people see it.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So we lucked out in that aspect. Real quick, going back to that art world and that race and not wanting Crosby to do it, I'll support anything that kid wants to do. And I'm sure you feel the
Of
same
course.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the uncertainty of this lifestyle, of what's next, of wanting to be better, of not being good enough, all these feelings that we constantly go through, it takes a really strong human being, and it's not always the easiest lifestyle. You know, it's
Yeah.
like once your brain starts going and once you feed that thing and you really give it some steam, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I'm baffled by people that can go to the beach and sit on a towel for 6 hours. Like, I can go for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I can take a walk on the beach. I can move on the beach. I'll throw a frisbee. But I'm not sitting there for 6 hours. I'd go freaking insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just that it's a never-ending pursuit of who knows what.
Yeah. It's
Right?
kind of, it's amorphous
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Yeah. That is a challenge for sure. I think, I do think having a support crew, whether that's your people that you work with, your team, which I
Right.
think is hugely, it helps to reduce the feeling of like you're like a troll in a cave that's
Right.
just isolated. It reduces that isolation. So I'm
For sure.
very thankful for the fact that I do have a crew.
How many
of
people on your crew?
I got three workers,
Okay.
and then Jen and some other people that are helping out with a lot of the the marketing stuff and all that sort of stuff. So it takes a team to be able to
Right.
do it.
It
And
does.
Thank God. I mean, again, it's a I would happily pay that expense because the isolation of doing it otherwise would be hard.
Right.
I think.
Not only that, but when you recognize that if there's someone better than you at something, let
Yeah.
them be better than you at
I'm
that.
very
and let them
happy
do it
for
you. You know,
Yes.
I see so many artists spending so much time doing shit they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do what you're good at
Yeah.
and pay someone to do what they're good at.
I've definitely know what my deficiencies are,
Right.
and I've gotten to a point now, especially as things have kind of grown and as where I'm one of my protecting my time and using it for the stuff that only I can do is a hugely important thing.
Yes.
But I'd like to kind of get into a little bit for you, like in your art career. I mean, you were doing the figurative work
I was.
for quite a while. And then you've kind of, I mean, what would you say you're most well known for at this point?
Oh, the screw art.
The screw art.
Yeah.
And when you like, that was you kind of, I remember at the Festival of the Arts, I think I remember the year that you did that. You had a bunch of new stuff, and I mean, very different, very new. And then that kind of what was the journey on that in terms of that sort of taking off and getting traction, and then kind of growth with that, and what things kind of assisted with that?
2007, 2008, the recession hit.
Yeah.
And I couldn't give away a sculpture, man. Like I had always.
That's when I started selling art. Was my first year in the festival. Was
Genius.
2008. It was a brilliant.
Genius.
Yeah,
Good career move.
Yeah, it was great.
I couldn't sell a bronze sculpture. I was basically broke. I was about to have Crosby. Actually, no. I had Crosby a few years later. It was a bad time in my life, financially.
Yeah.
But I had time. So instead of freaking out, I devoted time to coming up with something new. Somehow I invent this screw art thing, and I finished the first piece. And I remember my buddy at the time, who was an artist, he's like, "What are you going to price it at?" And I said, $30K. And he laughed at me. And he said, "You're never selling one of these for $30,000. And I said, "No, I will. It might take some time, but I will." And it really took 2 years to sell a piece of screw art.
Wow.
From the time I did it. I got offers, but no, I said, you know what? This has to be the value. I said, no one else is doing this. I figured out something completely unique that has my thumbprint on it, and this is the value. So I got exposure, showed them in shows. I could not
Which
sell
shows,
one.
like, around here?
So I was doing, as you know, the Festival of Arts, which was a really good show for a young person in the art world. You know, as I got older, I kind of got rid of that. But I was doing that. I did a few galleries. I was getting exposure. What shifted was someone from AOL, remember AOL.com, called me and said, "We want to do an article on your screw pieces." So they did an article, and I think it got something like 20 million views or something.
Wow, way back then.
Way back then.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. And then the emails started coming in, and it was kind of a snowball.
Yeah.
And since then, the art has evolved, which it has to.
Yeah.
For, at first it was just some portraits, because I thought, if I can do a portrait of my sister in screws and sell it, that's a successful piece of art, right? I don't have to do a portrait of Jimi Hendrix or someone I don't know, which is a big mistake artists make. I think you should be good enough at what you do that you can sell anything in that medium.
Yeah.
Right? But what was tricky about it, and what I realized, is that it takes a very special collector to pay a lot of money for something that's brand new. People want to hear that you've sold a bunch of them. People want to hear.
They want to know it's good.
They want to hear it from other people. It's very hard to find a discerning collector who has the balls to put 30 grand down and say, "No, that's a good piece of art."
That's a little bit of that catch-22, because it's,
And every time I create something new, I know I'm not going to sell it for a while.
Interesting.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
In fact, right now, I just finished a piece. I don't even know what the next step is to show this piece or how to get people to understand what I just did. So I need to kind of go back to screw art to pay the bills while I figure out what to do with this new
figure out that launch.
Dialogue, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, doing things that are new, you would think people would jump on it like instantly, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's new, it's fresh." No, it's like they want to know that other people are buying it.
That it's a vetted thing.
Yeah, it's almost like the insecurity of someone calling them stupid for spending that much money on something that no one else has.
Interesting.
It's tricky.
So that, but so after that initial first 2 years of it, kind of whatever, and be that AOL article really helped to kind of get the word out on it,
Right.
and then doing some shows. Are you doing shows all over the country?
Let's see. So it's about that time I met my art dealer, Larry. Larry is a 6'5" Jewish art dealer from Venice Beach who calls me baby. I don't think he's ever called me Andrew.
All right.
He's like, hey, baby.
All right.
He came into my life, and it was very serendipitous. I didn't want an art dealer. He called me. He saw my work on an airplane. I guess it was on one of the in-flight magazines.
Interesting.
And he called me and he said, listen, baby. That's what he said. He said, I'm retired from the art world. He said, I had a very successful career in art. He said, but I'm coming back for you. And I'm like, well, I don't want an art dealer. He's like, oh, let me just meet you. So he comes down, I meet him, and he bought a bunch of my work that day.
Oh, so he just bought it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He straight up bought it and said, I'm just going to prove to you that I can sell this. So he bought it. I think he almost doubled the prices, and he started doing Art Miami, Art New York,
Yeah.
and that whole fair scene. And it went, I'm not going to say he got rich, he didn't, but he really helped me get to the next level. And I'm very
Wow.
grateful for him in my life, not just, he's retired now.
Yeah.
He gave up on me.
Well, it had a good run.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we had a great run. We're still very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a blessing in my life as far as like someone who came out of nowhere that truly believed in me and was willing to put the money where his mouth was.
Yeah.
And these shows, I don't know if you know what the cost is involved of doing something like Art Miami.
I don't. I
Okay,
mean,
so it's a 3-day show. You got to be there for 5 days, basically set up and break down. So you need a hotel for 5 days, food, whatever. The show itself is probably between 30 to 60 grand
oh, wow.
for a booth. And that's for 3 days. So you can imagine if you go there and you don't sell, that's a hard hit.
That's a hard hit. Yeah.
That's a very hard hit. So a lot of these galleries at these shows, I mean, they've got deep pockets.
Yeah.
And you can't do one show and expect to do great, right? You're probably going to lose a lot of money for a few shows until people catch on that you're this gallery or that.
Once they they get accustomed to seeing you, I guess, or something like, yeah.
Yeah. But so Larry did it for years. He did that whole circuit, and he got me a lot of exposure, a lot of eyes on my work. In the meantime, I was getting a lot of eyes on Instagram, and a lot of people reposted some of the videos I did, which, looking back, it opened the doors to plagiarism and all these other people who started copying me because I, like an idiot, put out the whole system of how I do
The whole
this.
process.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Would you not show the process?
I would
if you
go
were doing it
back
again?
and never show the process.
Yeah.
Like I had to figure out every single thing from scratch.
Yeah.
How far the screws are apart, everything,
Yeah.
right? Everything.
Yeah.
And someone watches my video and they're like, oh, I can do that.
They just write down that formula.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
do that. And sure, you can do it. Not the way I do it, because it
yeah.
looks like shit at the end of the day, but you're putting it out there in the art world. And people who haven't seen my work think that this dude who's got, what's crazy about plagiarists is they will not only take your method, but they'll take your subject matter. I've had people copy my titles and my imagery and then try to sell it in the art market. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Besides everything.
Yeah, besides everything.
No,
It's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been the evolution of that.
Wow.
Larry was a big part in it. And
So is that when it kind of started snowballing with where you started really, like where it started really cranking for you with the screw art?
man, I don't know.
Or is it kind of more of a slow growth, or is it kind of?
It fluctuates for sure. I mean, we've had good years, great years, and then some pretty pathetic ones too.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that I've done right is I've used every avenue to show my work, thinking outside of the box. So, for example, in Laguna Beach, there's 2 major restaurants, Broadway and 230, that most people from out of town. And how many people visit this town a year?
Millions.
Millions.
Yeah, there's 6 million plus
Millions.
people coming per year.
So I furnish these restaurants with my art, free of charge to them, and if I sell a piece, they're not taking a cut.
Yeah.
But it's exposure. It's just putting the art in front of people. And you'd be surprised how many sales I've made from restaurants rather than the gallery. The restaurants are actually almost more successful than the gallery.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
But I think that's something, and
Excuse me.
that's something I think some of that guerrilla marketing or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I mean, I guess people are still getting stuff out of galleries, but I think most people are kind of encountering art pieces
Right.
and maybe falling in love with them or falling in lust with them or whatever it is. So to kind of have stuff out there in the world like you do,
Right.
I think that's, I mean, I can only speak for my experience that like some of the public pieces that are out there,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, millions of people see them.
Right.
They interact with them. Like it's part of people's days,
Right.
and maybe the first 10 times they see it, they go, oh yeah, whatever. And then eventually they're like, they decide to pull the trigger on it. Something clicks, right?
Something clicks, yeah.
And so, those things become like these public pieces, basically, they become billboards
Right.
that sell for you forever.
Right.
And so, I mean, I guess some of the things, if I was to look at some of the stuff that's been good for me, I would say like, some of those opportunities that have kind of serendipitously come along for public art pieces. I would say those have been good. Led to way more sales than the residential stuff ever does.
Isn't that sad?
It never does. The residential
it's
never
like people
leads to much.
collect you, and then they just want to keep you their little secret.
Yeah. It's
like,
kind of how. But and then the other thing that I've found that's was a terrible investment, but was actually really it's a terrible investment in and of itself, but it's been one of the best investments I've ever made in terms of the art sales were the books, right?
Okay.
So having those books.
Casey, tell us how much it costs to print up a book.
Yeah, it costs more to make the book. I'm losing money on every book, basically.
So I paid $200 per book for my 2-volume edition thing that I did. I sell them for $250, but basically, no, it's a losing battle in that way. But yes, you give someone a book, and it's a big deal.
I found those, or just having them to take them to. Because most of what I do is commissioned. I mean, I'd say 90+% of what I do is commissioned, which is good based on the nature of like the cost of materials and the scale that I like to work to and all that stuff. So I'm not storing a whole bunch of, large sculptures all over the place. But having that book, usually when you're meeting with people, at least in my experience, it's either a couple or a committee, or it's usually multiple people. Right. And so having the book or books to be able to pass that around, I've found that's led to more additional sales or more than anything. So it's the books. I've lost money making the revenue in terms of book sales, but
you've gained money.
But it's been one of the best investments I've ever made in terms of bringing in revenue. So
it was a good investment.
So you
said it was a bad investment.
It was bad. Well, just book sales are not lucrative, but what it's brought in has been good. I mean, so you found that for putting stuff in restaurants. Like what other stuff? I mean, have you found to be good?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because you've got a lot. You've been. I would say of the guys that I know, you've been, a little ahead of the curve in terms of like thinking outside the box. A lot of people kind of are going and they're using the playbook that is just like the older playbook, and you're kind of your marketing and getting stuff out there has been it's coming up with creative ways to effectively do it without spending a bunch of money or losing a bunch. So
I've never had an advertising budget.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I think part of the magic, I guess, is I've always believed that I was going to succeed. So in art, right? So when I meet someone, first thing is I want them to know not what I do, but who I am. And who I am is an artist, right? And I'm very much, this is who I am, not just what I do. And I like to show people. So everywhere I go, it's a conversation that comes up. And because I'm excited about what I do and who I am and what I have going on. So I'm always promoting myself, you know? And the thing is, if you don't believe in yourself, why should someone else, right? Um, the key to like being a great artist is really making great art,
Yeah.
right? It's as simple as that. But then to be a successful artist, which is very different than a great artist, there's a lot of great artists who are unsuccessful.
Yeah.
You truly have to believe that you can make it. You've got to believe it. You got to believe that you're already famous, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like they say, fake it till you make it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
Yeah.
It's like if you believe it with all your heart. So I think my best marketing has always been just how I carry myself and that the idea that I am an artist and I'm proud of it and I want people to know. So I'm a walking billboard for myself, you know?
Well, I think that's awesome. And, you know, I think that that's the way you put it's a beautiful statement. And I think it's absolutely true. And I think that that belief and faith that it's gonna happen and you're gonna bring it to what it needs to be
Right.
is awesome. And I think that's
I know you've got that too.
you got to, you have
Yeah.
to, you
Yeah.
have to. And
Yeah.
you know, that's as much as you talk about some of the demons and all that. I mean, it is that just that feeling that it's all going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that to be able to do that. And I think that you've demonstrated that with, you know, the proof is in what you've done. So
So a lot of times I've got to take a step back and be in the present to look at it already has worked out.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I get to go into work when I want. I get to leave when I want. I get to do what I want. I make all my own decisions. I live a very, very blessed, wealthy lifestyle, you know? And like, if you think I'm complaining at any moment, I am saying it's a rough career, but it's a very blessed career for sure. And I'm one of the very few, like we are one of the fraction of people that attempt to do this, right? We're just hard-headed, stubborn, and we don't give up, and that's what it is. But I don't want anyone to hear this and think that I'm complaining about being an artist. I'm not. It's a great lifestyle. You just pay for it in other ways.
I think that's the perfect wrap up. I think it's very well said. Andrew, thanks for coming down.
Casey, thanks for having me, man.
This has been a fun conversation. It's always great shooting the shit with you.